I'd like to start by asking you a little bit about the word influence. What does that word mean to you in the branding world? And do you think that the nature of influence has changed, given what's happened in the last 12 to 24 months?
For me, it's both about the values that the brand carries, but also, do consumers find value in the brand? Does it solve and understand the problems that I'm trying to solve, the challenges that I have in my life? And I think what's happened over the last 12 months is that it's all been magnified. It's all been magnified in terms of, from a consumer perspective, what I care about, what's most important to me. A lot of reflection has gone on with everything, with people being at home, with different work. Those challenges has been magnified.
Do you think that the way that brands have sought to influence the consumer has changed at all in the past 12 months or so?
Yeah, I think it has for sure, Stephen. The whole digital explosion has enabled, brands to, I think, get much closer to their consumers through channel diversification, through personalization than they ever have before. The use of influencers, has exploded, so that there's more, credibility and more maybe amplification of what is really important to them that has changed dramatically. So access to information, access to data, transparency, all of that has been amplified over the last 12 to 18 months.
So now think about the word authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
How does that play into influence? Certainly in the past 12 months, maybe in the past, but more recently.
Unless you walk that talk, unless you demonstrate that authenticity in everything you do, it doesn't matter. So I think, how we show up in the world, how we are present in all of our communication, whether that's through, a paid media channel or whether that's an owned social channel. It is all reflective of how we authentically demonstrate our values and our brand story. And I think that's what's really been magnified over these last 18 months.
SkiptheDishes, a relatively new brand in Canada, has moved up the ranks really fast, not only in the prior year, but also in 2021. Tell us a little bit about the secret sauce of what's been happening. Again, focus on the last 12 months.
We've been very purposeful about the role that we play. The pandemic has certainly, as you know, forced a lot of people to change their habits in terms of, working from home and how they feed their family. And we've been, trying to really work with our restaurant partners because, we don't exist unless our restaurant partners are healthy and vibrant. So working with our partners to ensure that we can help them continue to be viable, at a point in time when their business model is challenged. We wanted to make sure that both our couriers and our customers were super, super safe. So we did a lot of modifications around how we deliver the food, right? So contactless delivery became a very, very big functional excellence that we, doubled down on to make sure that, again, both our couriers and consumers and our restaurant partners were all safe.
But tell us a bit about some of the specific initiatives from a marketing perspective.
We pivoted the communication around, a lot of the first couple of years with John was really all about entitlement and kind of this, you deserve great delivery, and he was sort of the amplification of that, the personification of that. We moved him in 2021 to be more about empowerment. So what are the choices that I'm making in my life today that are more meaningful to me so that I can get on to things that are more important? So we leveraged all the things that were working and really pivoted the storytelling that was more meaningful. One of our biggest initiatives we had committed from a sponsorship perspective to hockey, and again recognizing the importance for hockey within our overall passion points that we defined from a consumer perspective as being important, and how could we be involved in that moment that food moment. And again, as you know, through the experience last year, hockey viewing changed. We didn't have full arenas of fans sitting enjoying the game. Everybody was sitting at home.
How would you define the difference between a spokesperson and an influencer? What's the difference between the two?
I think a spokesperson does more from the brand out. So I'm going to ask you, here's the messages I want you to deliver for me, and deliver them in a way that is consistent with your brand and your personality. But here's kind of the messages. I think the difference with an influencer is, here's the business objectives we're trying to accomplish. Here's the brand objectives we're trying to accomplish. Understand your brand and how do those fit in with how you deliver your brand. So it's a little bit of like, hey, we're going to push out. We want character around that. We want kind of, branding around that. But influencers, it's a way of how do we fit into what you're doing and then make us a part of it. And then you share that through your, social, but it's very much kind of, through them versus at them. I think there's, maybe a little bit more risk with that as well, but I think there's also more reward. It feels more authentic. It feels more that we're, allowing others to participate in that brand story. And again, I think if we've done a good job with what we're about as a brand, then that association could actually turn into be very magical.
I mean, I'm not sure if you think of John Hamm as an influencer or not. That's debatable. But does Skip utilize that form of marketing or not?
With influencers, it's very purposeful. It's it's not really done, I would say, without a lot of thought. And it's interesting with John, because I think with John Hamm, we would have said, at the beginning, he was more of a spokesperson, where we have used him in 2021 as an influencer. And we did a little bit of work in the beginning of the year where we engaged him with some of the work that we were doing with restaurant partners. And he actually talked about, there's a video online on YouTube where he, talks about all of the work that we're doing with restaurant partners and basically thanking consumers for all of their attention to local restaurants.
In 2021, there was also a sponsorship issue with hockey that went a little deeper than pure sponsorship.
We are starting to move into a lot more discussion around how we play a part in societal issues with the teams and the leagues, and how can we influence inclusion, diversity, and belonging through the sponsorship. So we are looking at our sponsorships not from a pure kind of sponsorship level, but also the ability to get down again to the whole arena of values.
Would there have been a third initiative that you'd say, I got to tell you about this one as well?
Our relationships with our restaurant partners. And so we, again, have always done a lot of work together with them to co-promote things. And I think that went to a much, much deeper level in 2021, where it went way beyond just our corporate partners, which again are incredibly important for our business, but also down to a local level. And we've spent a lot of time with our independent restaurants and our communities in really understanding the challenges that those restaurant partners have, and how we can play a role in helping them with their overall business.
Skip Express Lane, okay. And very briefly, how does it work?
So really, it's a service that enables over 1,500 convenience and grocery items to be delivered to your door in under 25 minutes. So it is just like you would see a restaurant on your app. It is Skip Express Lane on your app, just like a restaurant would be, with a selection of items, everyday items, essential items that you would have or need. And you can just go through and order that selection, and it is delivered to your door in less than 25 minutes.
There are 6 dimensions that, for want of a better word, contribute to any brand's influence: trust, engagement, corporate citizenship, being leading edge, having presence, and COVID-related issues. So which one or two of those dimensions do you think contribute most to this kind of gain that we've seen for Skip in the last year or so?
I think trust and presence would probably be the biggest that have had the impact on Skip. People can really really truly trust the brand to deliver an experience that they expect. And I think Skip has really delivered on that. From a presence perspective, again, I think I think we have really tried to be in an always-on presence for consumers through this pandemic and through this situation that we are all living in together. And we've really tried to be both present at a macro standpoint, but also in the moment where consumers need us to be. So there's a consistency of being available that Skip has delivered on, whether it's every day on your app when I open the app, or whether I'm sitting down, on my computer catching up at the end of the day, or whether I'm watching the hockey game.
So when you think back over the course of last year, what brands, circumstances, people inspired you?
I think the work that Kruger has done over the year with their, their whole humanity kind of concept, again, a very, functional product in paper and tissue products, but bringing it to life in a way that is nothing about two-ply this or blah, blah, softness, this, functional things, but really getting to who we are as people and who we are as humans, I think has been just really lovely work. And bringing a light in a very different way. So I've loved that work, and I think that's one that's really should be celebrated.
If a young marketer approached you and he or she said to you, look, I'm working on a brand and I'm really struggling with how I might help that brand generate more influence. Can you give me some advice? What would you say to them?
Well, what do you stand for? What is the brand important? What is its purpose? And if you don't know that, spend the time figuring it out.